My dear friend Sheila, the Executive Director of Transparency International here, Your Excellency Ambassador Geiger, my dear friend Henrietta, Honourable Member of Parliament, I'm not sure if I've observed all protocols, but I will say, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, and I will leave it at that. And please do think that you are all as important as an audience in my heart. I'm indeed very honoured to stand before you today to mark the African Anti-Corruption Day 2023 in Kenya. I was thinking, what am I actually doing? Am I celebrating? Am I commemorating? Am I marking? And I sort of decided to sort of stop with the idea of marking, because for celebration I think we still have ways to go. For commemoration, well, we're not actually eulogizing past work, but work which is continuing. So let us mark it. This occasion indeed holds great significance as we join hands to note the importance of the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, which was adopted, as already mentioned today, back in 2003, and as we reaffirm our commitment to its principles. Now, this work is extremely important. I am standing here with the dual identity of being Finnish, a citizen of Finland, and a citizen of the European Union. And both are founded on the principles of democracy, good governance, the rule of law. And these issues are very important. In the case of my own country, which still after the Second World War was a relatively poor country, without anti-corruption steps, without really becoming one of the least corrupt countries in the world, we would not have made it to being one of the wealthiest countries in the world as well. The European Union would not have succeeded in bringing peace and prosperity without a set of governance principles which would have been there and which would have leveled the playing field for all European citizens. And then there is security. My country has been neighbouring a country which has not necessarily always, as we notice now, respected the territorial integrity of others, and which has used hybrid threats throughout its history. Corruption became something akin to treason in the minds of many Finns. So if you do want to work with your neighbours, if you do want to build that success, and if you want to build your security, and if you want to break the glass ceiling from a LDC to a middle-income country like Kenya, and from a middle-income country to a high-income country, anti-corruption needs to be at the heart of your efforts. So this is why it's so important that the AU Convention reflects the commitment of African nations to fight corruption and promote good governance as essential elements for sustainable development, economic growth, and the well-being of your citizens. The Convention aims to promote and strengthen measures to prevent, detect, punish, and eradicate corruption in Africa. It aligns with global initiatives such as the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, while addressing the very specific local challenges you have in your own societies. Now let me pay tribute to our host, Transparency International, because you are actually keeping everybody accountable by providing valuable insights into the state of corruption worldwide. None of us escapes your sort of gaze, and that I think is very, very good. The Corruption Perception Index by Transparency International ranks countries based on their perceived levels of corruption. Now, in 2022, Kenya, our host country, obtained a score of 32 from 100 in their Corruption Perception Index. Okay, this is below the global average score of 43, but if you match it with Sub-Saharan average, with the Saharan average score of 32, then you are about there. Kenya is ranked as 123rd out of 180 countries and territories assessed. Now, while the score is low, let me note, and I'll talk about that later, it's been improving. There have been really very good steps, and when we listen to the current government, we see that the commitment is there, and this is a commitment which really needs to be followed through. Now, we see that Kenya has robust laws and policies on corruption. However, implementation, the frameworks still need to be operationalized. You really need to work there. Now, to get to why I'm standing here as the Finnish ambassador, well, we work on anti-corruption efforts around the world, not as a separate issue, but very often as mainstreamed into our programs, and that's what we're doing with Transparency International. For us here, we work to improve women's democratic participation, we work to counter gender-based violence, and as well as strengthen technical and vocational education and increase decent job opportunities for young people. Women, peace and security, youth, peace and security, these are key. And let me unpack that a little bit. On gender, corruption can really disproportionately affect women. It limits their access to resources, services and opportunities. Addressing corruption is crucial for creating an enabling environment where women can fully participate and benefit from development processes. And let me also notice, and I'm thinking of a discussion I once had with Mohammed Yunus, who got the Nobel Peace Prize for empowering women in entrepreneurship in Bangladesh. I asked him once, why women? Because they give back to society much more than men do. I hate to say that, but that's probably true. Youth. Now, we're in a country with the median age of 19. High levels of youth unemployment create an environment that is susceptible to corruption, while corruption exacerbates issues of youth unemployment. When corruption thrives, it hampers economic growth and diminishes the chances of creating sustainable employment opportunities for young people. Here again, everybody loses. And then I talked about the external threats from foreign governments corrupting people, but there's an internal threat. Poverty is the result of corruption. Unemployment is the result of corruption. And where are the origins of extremism, violent extremism? Where are the origins of people feeling desperate? Here we come to peace. If your societies do not work, they become vulnerable. So gender, youth, and peace are very closely connected. The fight against corruption and the range of actions are needed. You need legal frameworks, you need institutional capacity, and you need to protect, as was mentioned very importantly, whistleblowers. These are heroes, not villains, even if it's quite difficult at times, even in settings of governments which have started off by fighting corruption. That guy or lady who comes there and blows the whistle and says, there's a problem. No, he won't be very popular. But these people are heroes. Our societies need them. Citizen participation and civil society engagement is important. And Kenya has done a lot since the 2020 constitution and the beginning of devolution. There are governance systems which recognize the right of local communities. However, the implementation, involvement and participation of citizens in public finance management and governance process, well, it's still not quite there. There's still a way to go. And the engagement of rural women, youth, and persons with disabilities in governance and decision-making is especially low. As a consequence, many women, youth, and persons with disabilities remain excluded from governance processes. And this is again what brings me here, because these are exactly the kind of issues with which we are working with Transparency International Kenya to empower marginalized groups to effectively participate in public finance management and decision-making processes in Western Kenya with active interventions in Kisumu, Kakamega, Siaya and Bungoma. This project has empowered citizens through awareness creation and anti-corruption campaign. It has helped to bring accountability mechanisms in place and strengthen networks to support anti-corruption work at the grassroots level. That counts. Through our support to the wonderful work of Transparency International Kenya, we want to encourage the government to ensure the full participation of people in the management of public affairs and national and grassroots levels. Politics is not about leaders. Politics needs to be about citizens. It needs to be about every single person here. Now, international corruption is essential. We are committed to collaborating with Kenya and other African countries, and I was so glad to see this sort of group here of people from South Africa and Uganda who are working together with lessons learned, and I commend the European Union for this very, very important regional project here. This really counts. Now, as we mark the African Anti-Corruption Day here in Kenya, let us really recommit ourselves to the values of transparency, accountability and integrity for the sake of our economic development, our peace, our security, and to breaking those glass ceilings. Asante sana.